G'day and welcome to another Addicted to Sliding track test, where today we have the Toyota Supra manual. So how does it fare here at Sandown International Raceway? Let's hit the track and find out. The 5th generation Toyota Supra has been around a while, so you're probably familiar with its stats, but here's a quick refresher just in case. Under the bonnet is a BMW sourced 3-litre turbocharged straight 6 developing 285 kilowatts and 500 Newton meters, in this instance attached to a 6-speed manual. Front brakes are 348mm discs with 4-piston calipers, and the 19-inch wheels were Michelin Pilot Super Sports, measuring 255/40 front and 275/40 rear. It costs $86,295 plus on-road costs for the GT, or another 10 grand for the GTS. Before we get behind the wheel, a reminder: the Addicted to Sliding track tests are brought to you in conjunction with Evolve Driving. If you want to hit the track and evolve your driving, check out the link in the description below. Okay, heading the track here at Sandown, and there's two things we need to cover off here. Firstly, we've got the Supra itself, and then we can cover off the manual bit. Whoa, slippery. Gotta get these tyres up to temp. So let's deal with the first question first. This is the first lap out, and I've already had a couple of little wiggles because the track feels very slippery. It's very hot here today. There, as soon as we go near the throttle, it just wants to light the tyres up. So let's start with the engine then, because that's dominating proceedings at the moment. This engine is just beautiful. I mean, BMW do such a good job with straight sixes. And while the B58 isn't as focused as the S58, the proper RAM engine, it's still mega. It doesn't rev super high, its best work's done probably by about 6.5. But, sounds good. It's got masses of torque, revs hard. And this is with the the longer gear ratios of the manual rather than the automatic. Hey, this thing is feisty. Look, here we go on the back straight. It's already 160 through the kink. Let's see what it gets to. That's 200. This is a hot day, and we're already 225 easy down the back straight with a conservative exit. So one thing this thing doesn't struggle for is straight line pace. I mean, you've hopefully seen the Mustang Dark Horse track test, and this is a similar sort of price point, but this is a much faster car, which is partially down to its weight, but while its outputs aren't, particularly eye-catching, 285 kilowatts, 500 Newton meters, they are very, very, very strong kilowatts and Newton meters. And when this car got the upgrade from 250 to 285 kilowatts, it really brought the top end alive. Before then, it could feel not out of breath at the top end, but it just gave it the upgrade gave it that little bit of extra zing, which really brought this car alive and made it feel even more potent. Now what I'm going to do now is I've actually put it in sport mode, but I've got it set up as individual. So configure individual. Oh no, that's all right. Damping in sport, steering in normal, engine in sport. We're good. So I might as well talk about that. Selecting sport for this engine really wakes it up. Really sharpens up the throttle response and makes it much more alive in the first part of the throttle travel. Steering in normal, because sport steering, I've said this before and I'll say it plenty more again, I don't see the point in sport steering because it just makes more effort without any extra advantages or gains. Now let's talk about the chassis. The Supra's not particularly short wheelbase if you look at the actual dimension, but it feels short wheelbase. It's very, very agile, but with that agility comes responsibility because it's very, very reactive. It feels a little bit edgy. If we carry brake into a corner, as you can see like that, it responds very, very quickly, and you've got to be on your game. You've got to be awake to its reactions. It's fast, it's got a lot of grip, but there we go on the throttle again. It wants to oversteer, it wants to oversteer, it wants to fight you. It's exciting, but can be a little bit nerve-wracking if you're not expecting it or if you're not comfortable with it. I've also now turned gear shift assistant off. As usual, it works great. There's no flaw with the technology, but it's so much more satisfying to nail the shifts yourself because it's easy to heel toe. Brakes are strong. I think this car's done 16,000 Ks, and press Ks aren't normal Ks. So they may be a little bit tired, but Supra brakes in general are very, very strong. You could kill them if you wanted to, but you'd have to be pretty brutal. Certainly it will do multiple hard laps in a row. I'm not pushing crazy hard at the moment, but it'll certainly do multiple hard laps in a row without any fuss. The damping's pretty good. On the road, sport mode can be a bit stiff, but here on the track it works well. And the ESP works pretty well as well. So there's a traction mode. Once you get to sport, just hit it once and it goes into a traction mode. Very similar to BMW's MDM mode, obviously being based on a similar electronics package with this engine. And it gives you plenty of leeway for fast laps while still coming in like there. If I trailed the brake in, you've got the back to slide. It gives me time to correct it without the electronics stepping in, and it'll be very handy in the wet as well. What's interesting is the Supra is on the older generation Michelin Pilot Super Sport tyre, rather than more typically now you'd see a Michelin Pilot Sport 4 or even 5, and it does feel like an older generation tyre. It takes a little bit of time to get some heat into it, can be a little bit more snappy, but does provide plenty of grip. But it happily rides these curbs. We get in here. As you can see, it will easily light the tyres up coming out of these second gear corners. So you can't just drive it like an automaton. But there you go, once you get it hooked up, you just need a little bit of finesse with the throttle and it is perfectly happy. Now let's deal with the second part of that equation. Is the Supra better as a manual? Let's preface this by saying I'm very glad they offered the manual. It's great that manufacturers still offer it and that they introduced it. And I've got to say, I like it here. It works well. The gear ratios work well. It's a better shift than the equivalent M2 shift. First time I drove this car, I can't remember which way I drove it around, but this is a better shift than an M2 shift. It's more accurate, it's tighter. I wish this gearbox was in the M2. However, this engine just works so well with the ZF 8-speed. It's very, very difficult to improve on that combination of this B58 engine and the 8-speed auto. But that being said, there's nothing really wrong with how the manual works. It's a little bit of an awkward shift. It feels like one of those cars, like a bit like the F-Type was, where the manual came later and maybe wasn't necessarily part of the original design philosophy. So the lever positioning, you kind of, you know, it's a bit high. Changing gear can be a little bit awkward. Not the end of the world. It's not as bad as the F-Type, but doesn't feel quite as slick as you might hope. But the change is good. And I guess that's the beauty of it. For me, who's not necessarily a manual diehard, I'd probably take the auto. I think I enjoy that car every bit as much. But if you're someone who views automatics as, you know, the easy way out and the work of the devil, then here's the manual. And the manual's good. It's not like somewhere the manual introduces a bunch of lag. Whoa, we're slippery. The track is slippery today. I'm not trying to lark about it, it's just, I think this heat's turning the tarmac a little bit greasy. We come third out of this last corner. And it hauls. So that's it. Now let's put the V-Box on, go for a lap, and see how this thing stacks up.